Wanted to do a video talking about Trump's recent meeting with Putin and some of the top Republicans in Congress coming out against him. This could be because of their frustration that Trump wouldn't call Putin out for interfering in the U.S. election. But I want to highlight the point that there are a lot of these Republicans that were pretty quiet. Last month they weren't saying a lot about Russian interference, and potentially now that some of the primaries are over, they feel more emboldened. They don't feel like they're going to be challenged by someone else on the right that Trump could potentially support. They might feel a little bit more liberated to speak their mind on the matter. But let's look at, for example, House Speaker Paul Ryan. He came out and contradicted several of Trump's comments about the Russian hacking in the election. He backed up the intelligence community in the assessment that Russia did meddle in U.S. elections. He said, "There is no question that Russia interfered in our elections and continues to attempt to undermine democracy here and around the world." He said, "That is not just the finding of the American intelligence community, but also the House Committee on Intelligence." Then you had Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell state, "I've said a number of times, and I say it again, the Russians are not our friends, and I entirely believe the assessment of our intelligence community." He went on to say, "The president must appreciate that Russia is not our ally. There is no moral equivalence between the United States and Russia, which remains hostile to our most basic values and ideals." Corker, a Tennessee Republican, he's not seeking re-election. He said, "I was very disappointed and saddened with the equivalency that he gave between them," meaning the U.S. intelligence agencies, and what Putin was saying. Congressman Chris Stewart of Utah, he went on to say, "President Trump is wrong. Russia meddled in the 2016 elections." But see, this is different than what Chris Stewart was saying earlier in the year when he said that the CIA and the Department of Justice were wrong. And so you see a lot of these Republicans changing their stance, coming out against Trump. Maybe they feel like there's strength in numbers. Mitt Romney, he's another one I wanted to bring up. Mitt Romney came out against President Trump with his meeting with Putin, saying that Russia was not our ally, that they're extremely dangerous. He had vocalized this in the past, but he was very quiet during his primary election in Utah against Mike Kennedy. Mike Kennedy was a vocal Trump supporter, and there's a lot of Utahns that like Trump, and Romney was very quiet about the Russia meddling then, but maybe he feels more free to say what's on his mind with the fact that his primary election's over and he's seeing other top Republicans coming out against Trump. I want to talk a little bit about why Trump is so defensive about the idea of Russia meddling in the election. Let's think about this. If Trump admits that Russia meddled in the election, then he's admitting that his presidency might not be legitimate. And the thing is, most people, a lot of people already recognize this, or even a lot of Republicans recognize, even if they're not vocal about it, other congressmen, a lot of them already recognize there's a good chance that his presidency isn't legitimate, that he won with the help of Russians. But they don't always say that because some of the Republican base are staunch Trump supporters. But I'm sure that Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, as they talk amongst themselves, I'm sure that they've come to that conclusion. I'm sure that maybe they haven't come to the conclusion, but I'm sure that they've discussed that possibility. And so, it shouldn't be a surprise, even though it is to a lot of people, how Trump's meeting with Putin went. I also want to highlight the fact that in his meeting with a lot of European leaders, he constantly criticizes NATO. The main purpose of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is to be able to be an alliance against Russia, and it should be very alarming to Americans that Trump constantly criticizes NATO, but then he is very cozy towards Putin.